What if I told you the very thing you're doing right now to fix a relationship is the same thing quietly pushing it to collapse for good? The problem isn't that you aren't doing enough to fix it, but that what you're doing changes how she experiences you. So in this video, I want to show you what you're doing wrong in terms of fixing that feels right to you, why you're not getting the results you want, and what actually gives you a real chance to turn everything around in your relationship when everything feels so fragile right now. And just before we jump in, give that like button a tap if you appreciate me making this type of content, and it will help YouTube find other men who need this help as well. When you start to get that feeling that your marriage or relationship is in trouble, or if she flat out tells you that she's not happy and is becoming more distant, there are two things in our brain as men that go off. It is basically a combination of panic and competence. The panic side of you obviously makes your heart drop because you think of losing her and everything else you've built, and that hits you like a ton of bricks. The competence part is where men are inherently problem solvers. And as a man, you've spent your life solving problems. You look at situations, you identify what's broken, and you apply effort until things function properly again. That's the mindset that works in business. It generally works with money, systems, logistics, plans, you name it. The approach is pretty much standard across the board. So when your relationship starts to feel unstable, when conversations with her start to feel colder, you have less and less intimacy, and she's emotionally pulling back, your nervous system reacts automatically to step up into problem solver mode. The problem with that is that relationships don't operate on logic when you're working with feminine emotions that have been disconnected. Fixing feels like leadership because it involves you jumping up and taking action. But emotionally, at this stage of a relationship crisis, fixing often feels like submission. So when we are talking about fixing the relationship, we are talking about the panic actions you take, like trying to get her reassurance about how she feels and where you stand with her, trying to get her to do long emotional talks to convince her to work on things with you. And you can check out a video that I made called "If You Want to Save Your Marriage, Stop Trying to Convince Her" for more depth about that. But it's also doing things like begging or pouring out all of your feelings for how much you care about her and how much you need her. When you try to fix the relationship, you think you're communicating care, but emotionally, something very different is landing with her. Fixing quietly communicates that you believe she's unhappy because of you and that you're afraid of losing her. And for you to be okay, you have to have her approval, and only then will you be able to be steady emotionally. If those words never even come out of your mouth, she's still going to feel that from you. And the more urgently you push to fix, the more clearly she can feel your fear. So while you're trying to prove commitment, her nervous system is registering volatility because the emotional position you're operating from is a reactive one. I want to talk about something I call the fixing loop, which is the most common way men fall into this position where everything they do sends the relationship down the drain. Here's how it usually unfolds. She starts to pull back emotionally. So naturally, what happens? You sense the distance in one way or another, and that panic or fear of loss sets in, so you try harder to repair it. But instead of getting the outcome you're intending to get, she actually feels pressure instead of safety and pulls back even more. This is not the end though, and this is where it actually gets so interesting. I know because I did this in every single one of my failed relationships, culminating when my ex-fiance left me, and I unknowingly put myself into this fixing loop only to end up completely heartbroken and lost. At this point, where you're getting frustrated because she's pulling back more when you're intending to do more to fix the relationship, you're actually going to start trying harder because that further sense of desperation sets in. That loop keeps tightening and tightening. The mistake men make is that believing if they can just fix better, say the right thing, show enough effort, tell her how much they need her, the loop is eventually going to break and she's going to jump right back in your arms. It won't. Because all of these actions at this point do nothing to calm her nervous system. They actually activate it, but not in the way you're intending to. It's like someone taking a step backward away from you while you keep stepping closer and closer saying, "Hey, I'm just trying to help." At that point, the relationship isn't responding to words anymore, it's responding to positioning. One of the most confusing parts of when you try to take those actions is that it sometimes looks like it's working. This is the illusion of progress. You may start doing nice things and she softens up a little bit more or talks a little bit more or even agrees to try with you. But what's happening isn't her attraction being rebuilt by these actions, it's actually just borrowing your emotional energy. And borrowed energy always runs out. That's why so many men say things got better for a little bit and then suddenly they got worse again. They weren't really better, they were just temporarily stabilized by your effort. But ultimately, Effort is not a sustainable emotional foundation when her emotional disconnection has already happened. So when things start to taper off again, or they just stop in their tracks, you get frustrated again and say, look, like I'm actually really changing. And many times you are making that effort to do so, but because the leadership portion and your ability to create emotional safety as a foundation for her is absent, the borrowed energy we talked about just dissipates fast and that foundation is still cracked. Because your changes are happening from a place of fear and mainly relying on putting in more effort on things that don't really fix her emotional safety, they don't work long term. So now that you understand why fixing the relationship itself and putting added effort alone doesn't save your marriage or relationship, let's talk about what your goal has to be able to save it. Listen to the difference between fixing and leadership. Fixing tries to control outcomes. Leadership stabilizes the environment. Fixing is asking the question, how do I get her to feel better? While leadership asks the question, what kind of presence doesn't require her to, because she already will feel fine. This is all about replacing trying to be persuasive and providing explanations as to why the relationship should continue with being a calm emotional presence and having self-respect. She doesn't trust change that's trying to save something out of fear. She starts to trust your change that exists whether she stays or not. This is a type of masculine groundedness that I had to learn after being sick of having my heart broken time and time again. And it is an absolute life-changing skill. So instead of going through the list and asking yourself what you have to fix so she stays, the question is to ask yourself, what kind of man would feel grounded whether she stays or not? That question changes how you speak and show up and how you begin to understand the importance of regulating yourself. This is how you remove the fear and urgency without removing your care. And you create the ability to restore polarity without withdrawing connection. And most importantly, it stops you from being the source of pressure in an already fragile relationship dynamic. So if you're stuck in fixing mode right now and you see the fixing loop happening where you're doubling down and trying everything you can, but it's just making things worse and worse, go and check out my free masterclass. If you don't know how to shift without making things worse, that's exactly what I walk men through in the masterclass. You can seriously collapse the time frame it takes to turn their relationship around, but you have to take that first step and not just dither around. The masterclass is free to watch and the link is in the description below. If this video helped you out, if it helped you see things in a different light, give the like button a tap and go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next video.